welcome to our May episode of Silver Linings Talk Show. We are so excited to be introducing Michelle Bailey with Project Courage.
Yes, and we have so much to talk about, so it's so exciting. And first, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We are excited to learn so much about Project Courage. And I have to tell you, I was really moved by this first thing that I have to share.
Okay.
So, not only is it that millions of people are suffering from substance abuse or potential dependency in some way. And according to the founder, Andy Baccaro of Project Courage, I saw on the website, he just sent this really strong message when it came to treatment. And I was just fascinated by it. So I wanted to kind of sum it up very simplistically versus the longer range of his comment. So Andy had said the treatment industry needs to take a hard look at itself and has resulted in treatment that lacks a soul. I was so moved by that and was like, wow, that's pretty deep. And so I wanted to, certainly my first question is ask you is, tell us how Project Courage is different from traditional treatment, and how does Project Courage bring soul into the work that you do with your clients? What makes Project Courage different and unique from traditional treatment?
I wish we could step inside there for a moment, because it starts with the feeling that you get as soon as you walk in. The mission is to really connect with everyone, because treatment is not one size fits all. Every human needs something different, and their journey is different. It's not identical. And so the staff is dressed as they are. I would not be dressed like this in work. Everyone's authentic, and we believe that when you're authentic, the connection is just that much easier. So as you move about, it's not uncommon that I'm in a sweatshirt, I'm wearing jeans, and we're all just very relatable by being true to ourselves. So it's the feeling that you get when you walk in, and when we survey clients, that's what stands out for them, is that they make real relationships with other clients, with the staff and the team.
I can almost picture that it already puts people right at ease versus stepping into a place where everyone's in a three-piece suit, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the relatableness comes in and kind of puts people right at ease, because we're coming in already in a very vulnerable place.
Right. Fear is at the heart of everything, and there's definitely a default response when people feel fear. So the staff is equally as encouraged to do their own work on their own journey. I have time during my day that I can meditate or do other things that are self-care related. It's encouraged, the entire team does it. So when you're in an environment that promotes that and encourages that, like-minded people, So we don't ask our clients to do anything that we're not doing. I go to therapy, I practice yoga and work out, I meditate. So I do things to help myself, and we encourage the clients to do the same.
So to me, that's where the soul comes in.
Yes.
Not only are you bringing these types of really soulful activities to clients, but the fact that it is encouraged and really supported within a work environment for the staff to do the same. Very different and unique.
Right.
That is different.
And every member of the staff cares for themselves differently. So what I do may not be relatable to you, but it might be to Lynn. And so people will naturally connect with someone on the team, if not multiple people, based on what they're interested in.
That I love, because you said it right there. Not everyone's doing the same thing. And if you were to walk in and see these series of the same people, then it's like, okay, this isn't for me. But if it's a bunch of very different people, then you see a free flow, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I could fit in because there's a place. There's there's a flow, so to speak.
I think of it very much. The pun is is ironic, but like Cheers, everyone knows your name. So I tend to be loud in the office. And so if you walked in, Lynn, with a lot of excitement and just genuine happy to see you, it's really important everyone's comfortable when they come in. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you, as I know you in one role of your life, ended up in the role of Chief Operating Officer of this amazing facility for adolescents.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can't believe I got here. I have a master's in business administration, and I worked in corporate America for a while, and that wasn't for me. I went on, I did fitness. I knew I had a greater purpose. I went to meet with a headhunter, and she asked what I wanted to do, and I said, motivate adolescents with working out and movement. And she said, how are you going to do that? And I said, well, I don't know, but that's what I want. So I just put the intention out there.
Out to the universe.
I did, I put it out. And she had heard of Project Courage. Now, what's interesting, I think Project Courage is one of the best kept secrets in Old Saybrook, because I live in Clinton and I didn't even know that it existed.
Well, we're bringing it out.
Yeah, we are. And thanks to both of you for doing that. Yes. So I went on the website, I looked, I sent an email that I would be willing to volunteer. I didn't hear anything back. Their website happened to be under construction at that time. I didn't know that. But I'm teaching fitness classes in a gym. Someone approaches me and says, we're looking for a fitness instructor where I work. I think it's you. Oh. And I said, well, where? She did, Christina Lyons.
Oh.
And I said, well, where do you work? And she said, Project Courage. And that was a month from when I had met with the headhunter. I phoned, and I started there just doing fitness and yoga. And then the journey there has been crazy. But yes, now I'm Chief Operations Officer. It's yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, it's about how things align. Isn't it pretty amazing when the universe makes things happen, puts people in the right places?
Well, even more ironic is I had worked there for a year before I started doing administration. And I had to go through a full interview in order to make that transition. And during the interview, Andy Boccaro looked at my application and asked for a personal reference. I listed my father. In that moment, he connected that my father was his clinician when he went in for treatment. And so we had almost come full circle. So talk about, yes.
That's a meant to be moment.
And Andy has helped me a lot with self-care and self-development, and so really just everything. And I've gotten to see my father and Andy reconnect during that process in time. So everything happens for.
Effect is that's a perfect, beautiful story of the ripple or the trickle effect of your father being Andy's counselor to help him in recovery.
Yes.
And then you working at the place that Andy is doing to help so many others recover in whatever ways that looks like.
And we brought in auricular acupuncture to help with detox and symptoms and things like that. My father facilitated the training for it. So it was just so cool to be present and have Andy and my dad in the same space. It was almost a little surreal.
I'm sure it was.
Yes, and they're both very important. I've worked there for 7 years, so Andy is very important to me, as is my dad, obviously.
Oh,
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing
Thank you for
that.
asking.
I got the chills.
I know. I love that. That's like really amazing. And you kind of brought this up a little bit already, but I just love how your environment, like where you work, really supports you guys as staff to then be able to better and effectively work with the clients that you serve.
Yeah, if we're asking people to be vulnerable and we can't be vulnerable ourselves, and we're encouraged to be vulnerable too with the clients. So if I'm having an off day, appropriately, but I can communicate that because everyone has moments.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think it's just so important.
yeah.
Because there's an element also a little bit of just being real.
For sure, for sure. And but within that context, you just mentioned, sometimes you're having an off day.
Yeah.
What are some of the unique challenges that you might have in this working environment with teenagers?
Yeah, because you work with teens and adults.
We do. So our youngest client is 14 and our oldest is 72.
Oh, okay.
So
Yep.
it is the gamut. You never know what to expect in the day because people show up as they are.
Right.
Some days, my favorite part of what I do is the direct care with the client. So I do run groups and interact with them. And that reminds me of why I do what I do. There's a lot of fulfillment there, but that's not to say it's not without challenge some days. Running a group can be very smooth or
Can have a lot of heaviness.
Yes, it can. It can. And people are going through very real things and
Yes.
experiencing that with them and feeling energy. You pick up on energy. So I would say that showing up every day and just, you don't know. You roll with whatever comes along.
And that is so true.
It's a really
So
great
true.
life skill. I get to sharpen it.
So what are some of those very unique challenges that you guys see with teenagers? And we had talked a little bit about this, and one of the things that came up was like how teens are, and very young adults, they're at school, they're partying, they're in high school and they're going to parties and they're drinking and they're trying things, and it seems so quote unquote normal and to be expected.
You really hit the nail on the head. How to socialize, and for them often to think about, am I really for the rest of my life not going to have a drink because they're so young? I don't choose to drink. I'm also 50, so it's just different. So the social piece, but Project Courage does things to help with that. So every month we run an alternative peer group activity. So next week we're going to the ropes course. We've gone go-karting, we've gone paintball. So safe, sober activities with peers. Staff goes too. Super fun. And just a nice way to engage outside of Project Courage itself in the community.
Well, that's a great way to do it too, and I can imagine sometimes the challenge can be family. Maybe not necessarily being on the same page or seeing eye to eye with the teen, so them having somewhere where they can relate can sometimes be the most important thing, right? I think you told us a couple of stories that were quite amazing, where you were the go-to, even maybe sometimes before family, and I think that's okay if and I think you could probably talk a little bit more about this, but teens, when they're growing, 14-year-olds, they're not always relating to their families, and it's okay if they relate to somebody else during that heavy time.
Well, and also treatment is really for the entire family.
Thank you.
It's never about the person struggling, it's about the unit. And that's really hard. So if they're doing work on themselves, but the environment remains the same, they're triggered in the same way. It really is. We find that for clients that have family engagement, their success and their ability to remain abstinent, if that's what they're choosing, just goes up because they're receiving the support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in tying into what you were saying earlier too, when you're young and you have a peer group, if they are participating in that and you're trying to refrain, sometimes it means shifting a friend group,
Yes.
which is really, really hard to do.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a big piece though.
For sure. Well, it sounds like you're offering a lot of that, because you're offering them alternative activities and you're offering, a family support as well. for those who are willing to participate. So that's really great.
And certainly a support system, a support network, especially if it's family or extended family, is so vitally important to someone's, let's say, success and potential sustainability of success. So it's great that there's a focus of you coming in the door, you're not the identified problem. We're gonna look at kind of all the pieces
Yes.
and really see where we can make the most impact and really help, the most that we can.
Well, and we're all moms at the table,
Yeah.
and it's nice to have that support too. So for parents, in addition to them having their own counselor, we have support groups. Some of them are psychoeducational, but some of them are just other families that are struggling. And as moms or dads or grandparents or whoever, it's nice to just be around other people who are going through the same
So
thing.
important.
Even that just feels good.
Of course, yeah, that's a great piece.
So important of someone not feeling like they're alone.
Correct. Yes.
In maybe a sea of struggles.
Yes,
For sure.
and stress. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we also talked about briefly prior is ways that clients have been referred to Project Courage. And can you share that and just how anyone could become a part of Project Courage if needed?
Yes. So some people self-refer. Others are brought in by a parent or a family member, but it's always with their own consent. That is super important. Schools will refer to us. Sometimes the law, if there's an infraction. Hospitals, we have a lot. Inpatient facilities. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, but we are always there. So.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned the court system.
Oh, yes.
Or maybe even the Juvenile Review Board.
Correct. Yes. So for our adolescents, school systems, juvenile review board, and then parents.
And then there were 3 main modalities that you guys like to use at Project Courage. And I wanted to mention all 3 of them and talk about the first one because I think it's one that I'm not so familiar with and I think it's so important. It's the Accept and Commitment Therapy Act. Can you just briefly talk a little bit about that modality?
Yeah, so I think that it goes back to that individualized treatment. And for us, we have our intensive outpatient program, which is 3 hours a day. We offer it online, there's a virtual option, and there's an in-person option. We also have in-home recovery, where there is a whole team of people, from a coach to a clinician to a wellness professional. And then we have our outpatient programming, and all of that is supported with family and just different activities that we offer at Project Courage.
One thing that I really liked about that idea of the basis of ACT is the acceptance piece, and we had talked about this, was that someone would have to come to a place of acceptance that I am still going to be surrounded by struggles or triggers in my world. And how, and what is the commitment piece? Like, I'm going to make a commitment to my goals, to my treatment.
It's really just to self,
To
right?
self.
Yes, just to honor self. All of the struggles will still be there.
Right.
It's just shifting how you deal with it. Those are things that are outside of your control, so controlling what you can.
Yeah, I love that. Because it's so true, is think about all the times where someone could be in a very, like an inpatient type of setting, everything is so regimented, locked down,
Right.
everything. But then when you step out, like you're stepping back into the world that you know beforehand. So I feel like that therapy modality is really important to bring in, and I'm glad to learn a little more about it.
Well, and that's exactly what happens. People come to us from an inpatient facility where it's exactly as you described. And then perhaps they're in our intensive outpatient program, it's 3 hours a day, there's some structure there. Then they move on to the in-home support where in home, but it's really in their environment, in the community, working on what they need to work on. I kind of feel like everyone could use that, including myself.
Yes. Oh,
Including myself.
you're so right, because those triggers that were there before are going to be there, and there's not that whole bubble.
But I love that you
coming
guys
from.
are
Yeah.
helping to support individuals and whatever it is about how to handle those, whatever they identify as their triggers. So that's great. And then you guys also use cognitive behavioral therapy and 12-step.
Yes, and we do a lot of IFS work too, which is internal family systems.
Okay,
Even for myself, that has played a huge part in my development. So I started doing cognitive behavioral therapy. IFS is more working with systems, and it's trauma-based therapy, so our clinicians have been certified in that as well.
Great. Now, is there any other little out-of-the-box activity or treatment that you guys use at Project Courage that, again, brings soul to your work?
Yeah, there's a lot. Our director, Andy Baccaro, he's like the brain guy. So he does neurofeedback. There's auricular acupuncture, which we spoke about, fitness, yoga, meditation. There's a lot of different ways to heal.
So you're really, it's almost really anything that might resonate with the selves that you're working with.
And
body.
That's what
Yeah.
I love too, though, is any one of us that has an interest in anything, it gets brought in. So we have a member of our team who's passionate about gardening. She created a group. They built the outside boxes. They planted. They would harvest. It was this whole, and something about creating something and giving it life and growing. But that happened because that's what she's passionate about. So as a team member, we can go to the director with anything that we love, and it can be incorporated. Because if we have passion for it,
Someone else
Yes.
will too.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
And that's a very healing thing too. Dirt,
Yes.
grounding.
Yes.
There's so much proof behind what it actually can do internally for you. So I love that. And I love that anything goes. That's just brilliant.
Yes.
There's one thing that we haven't talked about, I think, and there is a program that you have that's acronym STEPS.
Oh, yes. Yep. That is an alternative high school program for students that have been suspended or expelled, usually with substances as a basis for it. So the schools will outplace them to us, either temporarily or long-term. We have teachers, not tutors, that are certified through the state. They work directly with the students for 3 hours. There's a community engagement piece, and then of course therapy as well. So if someone is suspended from school for a substance-related offense, chances are they're staying at home. And if their parents aren't home, they can do whatever they want with their time. Rather than that, they're coming to us where there's so much hands-on care offered during the day, and it's very structured. And hopefully with the therapy and other things that are offered, maybe their mindset shifts a little bit, or maybe they're at least curious about a different option or a different way.
And did you say that you guys also have counselors in various schools too?
We do. We have school-based counselors that are right in the schools. It's for prevention and intervention. Teachers can refer them if critical markers are off, if they've switched peer groups, if their grades drop, if they're all of a sudden tardy or absent to class. Students can self-refer if they build a connection with the counselor. There's a lot of different ways that can happen, but yes.
It sounds like you are covering quite a bit.
I know.
It's like a web
So
that is
expansive.
spreading
I
out.
don't think of it that way, but just talking about it with you both, it feels that way.
It really does. How can people connect with you? Are there ways to help?
Yes. So if you want to access our website, it's projectcourageworks.com. And then our phone number is 860-388-9656.
Awesome.
And yes.
Well, thank you for being here and talking about Project Courage. And we wanted to wrap up the show today with Diane did a video from North Carolina. And one of the things she wanted to do was be outside to kind of tie in something that you guys do. So, and Diane is going to wrap up our show. So we'll see you soon. And we're excited to see Diane.
Hi, y'all. I am here in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm Diane Trone, and I am the correspondent that lives in Charlotte. And I am here to tell you about this amazing place that I go to almost every day, or every day I possibly can. And it's called Ann Springs. And it opened in 1995 as a nonprofit. It was donated by Ann Springs Close. And she recently passed in her 90s, but everybody talks about her saying she's just like such a lovely person, and she just loved being outdoors. She was a conservationist, and this particular place has over 36 miles of trails. We have 2,100 acres. And what we have here is fishing and canoeing and kayaking. There's rentals available for the kayaking, and you can run, you can bike, you can hike, you can camp. There's outdoor parties. And today I happen to be at the dog park, which is so beautiful. The dogs love it here. And I just wanted to share how important it is to get outside and get into nature and be able to, feel and touch a tree and just enjoy the forest, enjoy the trees. In fact, I ran into a woman here a little earlier. She's been here since like 11 o'clock this morning. She said that this is her place to come and hide and just relax and just be herself. So she'll spend all day here all the time by herself, she said. And a couple fun facts. I wanted to let everybody know that Finland is officially the happiest country. It is also 75% forest. And I believe those two facts are totally related. What do you think? And in wrapping up today, I want to leave you with something inspirational. And here is my thought. Into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul. This is the most beautiful place on earth. I hope you get out there today and take a walk, hug a tree, take your dog out, have some fun. It's inspirational. And here they come. Dolly! See if you can get them.